Good evening, everybody. It's the 24th of June. Naif Mubarak here with Mubarak Law in downtown Orlando. We have a really important show with the rainy weather behind us, and it's going to be very informative for you all. But before we get started and I bring on our special guest, I am going to go ahead and give quick updates and the good news and keep our tradition going. So first and foremost, today, Safa and I received good news on a E2 investor visa from Pakistan. They have pretty much approved the case, and we are just waiting for a final element before the final approval, and it should be really good to go. So no really request for evidence. So congratulations to our client and Safa on her hard work on that case with me, and we're going to hopefully have official approval soon. Also, last week, you've heard me speak about prosecutorial discretion and the memos and what does that mean for people in removal proceedings. And next week, I'm actually going to be part of a meeting with the Office of Chief Counsel, the attorneys for immigration inside the immigration court, to see how exactly this is going to work. So we are going to hopefully provide a great update for you, and we're going to do the live for you in Arabic. It'll be me and Safa, and we hope to see you there next week. Finally, USCIS update. There is a new kiosks inside this is more for attorneys, allowing you to go and pay for appeals locally as opposed to trying to make an InfoPass appointment. This was just announced just yesterday on the 23rd. So that's good news. All right, so you guys might have seen our flyer, and there may have been confusion as to who our next guest is. I want to introduce Mohammad Mubarak, who is an attorney, a native Floridian, born here in Panama City. He went to University of Florida, one of our top schools, for his bachelor's and for law school. And then he went on and graduated in 2011, where he was a state attorney in the Tampa area for about 4 years. He worked his way up and was one of the top attorneys, and where he has done over 200 felony cases and over 40 jury trials with a conviction rate of over 70%. So for those who don't know, the state attorney's office, the public defender's office, anybody who comes out of those offices after a few years experience is going to be probably incredible attorneys at trial. The skills that they learn there are really priceless. So after working at that office, Mohammad went on to open his own firm with his longtime friend, Mohammad Sharif, and they opened what's called first party insurance claims. Being from Panama City and the Pensacola area, Hurricane Michael came and, devastated so many of our Floridians' homes and lost their livelihood. And Mohammad, at that point in time, really realized the importance of proper representation. He did also work for the defense side, I want to correct myself, on insurance claims prior to opening it. So you have an attorney who knows how to represent the insurance companies, knows what they do, the tactics, what they look for, and then now is representing individuals against these big corporate machines. And now we said Mubarak versus Mubarak. Of course, this is not a challenge, but people were very surprised to see similar name. They thought perhaps I have a long lost brother, perhaps a brother from another mother. But I want to go ahead and bring on our guest, Mohammad Mubarak, who is joining us tonight. If you guys can help welcome him. Mohammad, how are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
And thanks for being here. Are you now in Panama City or Tampa? Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Tampa. So we started our firm in Panama City late 2018. And we were there for a little while. And I say we opened our office, and I put that in air quotes because anyone who's from Panama City or knows someone from Panama City knows that the devastation that occurred there. I mean, it's been described as like a bomb went off or like a post-war zone. And so our office in Panama City, honestly, was still under construction for a very long time after the hurricane. we were picking up our packages from FedEx and UPS. We had to drive there to pick them up. So we were there for about 6 to 8 months, and then we moved our main office back to Tampa, where I was working and living at the time before Hurricane Michael. And we still have a satellite office in Panama City, though.
Okay, so you are able to represent individuals from the entire state of Florida. Any other states?
Not at the time, but we're working on some other states. Right now, we represent people literally from Key West up to Pensacola.
Okay, great. And I know it started people thinking that perhaps you're my brother. I'm Palestinian. You want to share some of your background information?
Yes.
And, I know you're born in Florida, which is rare, especially for that long ago for a lot of people of color to be born here. But tell us a little bit about your background.
I will, absolutely. Thank you. I'm originally Syrian from my dad's side, and Jordanian from my mom's side. I call myself a mutt because I'm really mixed, because from my dad's side, we also have Algerian blood. And from my mom's side, we have Palestinian and Circassian blood. So like Jordanian, Palestinian, Circassian, Algerian, Syrian. So there's all that bloodlines in me, and I call myself an Arab redneck because I grew up in the Panhandle, and I endearingly call myself a redneck because I am. And so I love hunting and fishing, and growing up there, that's what we did.
We have distant friends and family in Kentucky, and they have the most Southern accents. It's so funny that they look like me and you, and they're like, "How y'all doing?" It's really a funny thing to see, but it's a good reminder that we're kind of all spread out all over, and we're all just as American and just from different backgrounds. And even the Middle East, there's no point in like really trying to divide or figure out where exactly each person is from. So anyways, you're here today, and we are in, I guess hurricane season has started or is ready to get started. And first party insurance has a lot to do with storms and damage to your property.
Right.
For any viewers who have no idea what this means, first party insurance, can you kind of explain to us what does it mean, and what kind of damages are people usually seeking or assistance with?
So great question. Thank you for that. We handle what are called first party property insurance claims. So we represent homeowners, commercial policyholders. It could be a restaurant owner. It could be a doctor's office. So we represent policyholders, people who have insurance from the insurance company, right? And so that's called a first party, because you are the party to the contract. First party property insurance claims. I know it's a mouthful. I never thought I'd practice property. In fact, that was probably my most disliked class in law school. I hated property. But I really enjoy representing people because we advocate for people. I started my firm after Hurricane Michael because of our unique background to be able to help people. And your average first party claim, other than a hurricane, of course, is, roof claim, so some kind of plumbing leak. Those are, I would say, our most common claims are like plumbing leaks, roof claims, hurricane claims, those kind of claims where you have property damage to your home or your place of business, some kind of property.
And then they make so you realize we finished a storm, your house has a tree falling on a roof, perhaps. What happens next? Should they contact an attorney? Should they contact their insurance company? I really hope people who are listening share this with your friends in Florida. It doesn't have to be a hurricane, like I said. It could be a bad storm, a rough storm, or any property damage done from weather. And can you explain what needs to happen when somebody does encounter this situation?
Absolutely. So I want to back up a little bit because hurricane season just started. And so even if you're not in Florida, I know you have viewers all over internationally and all different states. So Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, North Carolina. I mean, that entire coast, the Gulf Coast and the East Coast, we get hammered by hurricanes. In Florida, especially, obviously, as you know, I mean, we stick into the Gulf. We stick out in the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean. So we are really subject to hurricanes. And that's why insurance, it's a tough place to insure here, because We get hit by hurricanes a lot. And so the first thing that you should do right now is be preparing for hurricane season. You need to review your policy, talk to your agent, and we offer free policy reviews. So if someone has a question about their policy, am I insured? Do I have enough insurance? What other coverages should I have? Et cetera, et cetera. Now is the time to check. The other thing that you want to do is take assessment of your property. So check your roof, document your roof. If you can get someone up there, I'll tell you one of the famous, favorite tricks of insurance companies is to say, okay, this damage was pre-existing. If you have pictures before the hurricane that show the condition of the roof, and then you have a picture after the hurricane that shows like that shingle was flown off or other damage, then you can dispute that. And you can say, no, this is what my roof looked like before. I sent a drone up there or whatever, and you can do that. Trim trees. Those are very, oh my God, after Panama City, Hurricane Michael, the trees are what caused damage, honestly. The trees were like just leveling everything around them. So if you have trees in your yard, try to trim them, try to clean them up, take down some trees.
So would it look strange if somebody, like, let's say every hurricane season, I get pictures done of the house and that they're time stamped? I mean, if it would, a damage happens, is the insurance company gonna think it's suspicious that I had prepared myself to have such a claim, or
No.
is it practice is what you're saying?
No, I think that's a best practice that you should do as a homeowner. Always take assessment of your property and analyze everything. It's the insurance is a risk analysis, and you're doing the same thing. You're analyzing your property to assess risk around you. That tree is potentially risky, so maybe I should trim the branches. The condition of your roof is important. Most people don't get up on the roof, so you don't know what the condition is going to be like. You have senior citizens, and I always laugh when I see this. It's like I'll literally have people in their 70s and 80s, and the insurance company denies their claim and says, "Oh, the damage is foot traffic."
Yeah.
By who?
Yeah. Leisure activity, walk on the roof.
This 80-year-old lady was not walking on her roof. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And so that's one of the things. But one thing is important for your viewers to know is, especially those who are new to Florida, hurricanes are real, and you're gonna, if God forbid we have one coming towards Florida or anywhere in our the cone, as they say, you need to take assessment of. Be prepared is what I'm trying to say. Be prepared. If you're going to evacuate a few days before, if not more, 5 to 7 days preferably. But if you're going to ride it through, I would, depending on the storm, I would not encourage it. But be prepared. Be prepared with food, with water. We have, I think at this point, about 400,000 people that moved to Florida in the last year. So a lot of these people have probably never had experience with a hurricane. So you want to have things like battery operated flashlights. First aid kits. If you have medication that you're going to be on, get prescription, fill it more, because what people don't realize is after the hurricane, that's really, if you survive, that's the problem.
And a lot of people, like you said, who are moving here new, especially after the pandemic, we're getting people from California, New York, who don't really know and don't take it serious as to what we need. I know that our firm, every hurricane season or July, we at least send out in our newsletter a list of things that somebody needs to have in their house to prepare for hurricane season. And I'm going to go ahead and plug, follow us on social media. And of course, if you'd like to be added to our newsletter, our monthly newsletter where we have updates, please do so. And I'm going to share Mohammed's contact information again. And I want Mohammed just to share a little bit information. I know we said we're going to talk about how to make a claim, but I know that you and all of your partners all have extensive experience with the insurance companies, and if you could shed some light onto how you all gain this experience.
Absolutely, thank you. So I graduated law school and started off as a prosecutor in Tampa, Florida, in Hillsborough County. I represented the people of the state of Florida, and I love doing that. And then when I looked to the next step in my career, I actually joined a firm in Tampa. It's a premier first party defense firm. So they do in fact exclusively represent insurance companies, and they defend insurance companies. And that was my first job after leaving the state of Florida, representing the people of the state. And so that's where I was at the time of Hurricane Michael, when it devastated my hometown of Panama City, Florida. My partners, I'll start with Mohammed Sharif, because initially when we started, it was jokingly, I used to call us Mohammed and Mohammed. And so it was both Mohammed and I. And Mohammed worked at the Office of Insurance Regulation, regulating insurance companies in the state of Florida. It's called the OIR for short. It's under the Department of Financial Services, and they literally regulate insurance companies, what they can and can't do, what they can include in policies and cannot, et cetera, et cetera. And in fact, Mohammed was involved in the seminal case, I would say, of his career, is where it ultimately led to Allstate, the insurance company, the second largest insurance company in the U.S., leaving the state of Florida. So after his stint in the OIR, he went to Nationwide. On your side, as everyone knows, is the jingle.
You mentally sing it automatically.
Yeah, the Mannings. So he went there, was staff counsel in-house at Nationwide, and then went to another insurance company domiciled in Florida and New York. So they write policies in several states, and he was their general counsel for over 10 years. And then that's when we started our firm in 2018. So we have a vast experience. And Mohammed specifically, I would say, honestly, more than myself, regulating insurance companies in-house and then out-house, as I jokingly say with myself, and then representing policyholders. And then Abidimi joined us early last year in 2020, and he has even more extensive background defending insurance companies at several premier defense firms in South Florida, and then worked for the largest private insurance company in the state of Florida. Their logo is a red elephant, and he was a managing attorney there, represented a team or was supervising a team of attorneys. And so the way we operate, I can honestly say is different than your typical plaintiff's lawyer because of our background. And plaintiff means representing someone who's suing someone. So we sue insurance companies on behalf of policyholders. The reason we operate differently is because we know the game plan from the other side, because we've been there. And so what we're doing is putting the claim in the best posture to be paid for our clients. And that in our idea, in our mind, is the best advocacy that we can provide for our client. And I think that's what makes this job so rewarding.
Who are watching, they need to know. So the insurance companies have playbooks, right? They know what they're doing. They know what their defenses are. And unless you've been practicing representing individuals for an extensive amount of time, you're not going to accumulate the knowledge that it takes just by spending a couple of years with the insurance company. And I think, I know attorneys understand this. And I just want to emphasize to anybody who's like, when you work from the other side, you know exactly how the other side is going to react and how they're going to evaluate. So these are things that you can avoid or prepare for to strengthen somebody's case. So the fact that three of you, all three of you partners in this firm have extensive experience with the other side, I think it's pretty indicative of your experience, and it says a lot. And now,
I actually want to add one last thing on that note. It's not just us as the attorneys. Actually, our office administrator, I'm going to give her a shout out, Melissa Lopreto. She's an absolute rock star, and she's our office administrator. She wears several hats for our firm. She also actually represented insurance companies. She worked at a prior firm. I met her at a prior firm where I worked, and she's worked at several defense firms. And in fact, almost her entire career, about 20 years in paralegal experience, has been working as an insurance defense paralegal.
Yeah, and with the same with nurses and doctors and the paralegals, they do so much important work in our offices, and I'm thankful for ours as well. And I appreciate you giving your administrative assistant some attention on that. And I just want to give a comment here. Bashar, hello, Mr. Naif. Hey, Bashar, thanks for joining us. So Bashar, you're in Florida. Make sure you take some notes on preparing for hurricane season, and let's see what Mohammed is going to tell us now, what to do when somebody is ready to make an insurance claim or has suffered some damage from some type of storm.
So the first thing to do is, hopefully you're safe and sound. The first thing you want to do is report your damage. And it depends on the actual claim. For example, if it's an electrical issue, you might want to leave the property and make sure that there's no injury to you or any persons in the house. If it's a tree or something that basically, if anything, you can get further damage, you want to leave the premises, obviously. Or like a fire. Fires are also potentially very dangerous. So you want to leave the property. But other than that, report the damage as soon as you can to the insurance company, and take corrective action to temporary repairs. For example, if you have a big hole in your roof, you want to put a tarp on to make sure that there's no more water coming through. If there's been a significant amount of water that came in, the insurance company can lead you to what's called emergency mitigation services, EMS companies that will mitigate the property and remediate. So they put in their fans and their dehumidifiers and their machines to remove any moisture so that you don't have any mold, that the water that's in there is dried up, or if it cannot be dried, the material, the building material is removed. For example, baseboards, cabinets, carpet, that tends to get removed and discarded. But you want to take pictures. Very important to document everything. As attorneys, you know, Naif, we document everything, and you want to document pictures. So as soon as something happens, take a picture of it. Throughout the process, be taking pictures, whether it's to your actual building, to the house, to furniture. Don't discard anything unless you've taken a picture of it. And in fact, if you can, don't discard anything until the insurance company can investigate and inspect it. So if like cabinetry, for example, you can put that in the garage or somewhere storage so that the insurance company can take a look at it. If the house is not inhabitable, that's very important. If the kitchen is damaged, for example, and you can't use the kitchen or a bathroom, then typically the house is rendered uninhabitable. So you get a hotel.
Questions and comments for you on this. So I know a lot of times we tell our clients, hey, less is not more when it comes to immigration, right? More is more. The way we're able to prove it's not a criminal defense case where you're trying to, you know, the other side has the burden of establishing the case. A lot of times it's on us to establish the damages. So when you mention somebody's inability to use their kitchen, you know, and a lot of times a personal injury, like a car accident case, damages can be a lot of things. It can be loss of future wages. It can be injuries, punitive damages. What types of damages can be claimed in an insurance property claim outside just the repair of the structure?
Right. So typically in a first party claim, there isn't like pain and suffering. That's something I hear all the time, mental anguish and pain and suffering and future expenses. That it's a little bit different in first party property, because the question becomes, how much does it cost to repair your property? How much is it going to cost to replace or repair your roof? If you have contents, personal property damage like furniture, how much is it going to cost to replace that? That's concrete. Typically, it doesn't change. Obviously, there's some fluctuations in building materials as we've experienced recently, so that could change. Punitive damages can come down the road pursuant to bad faith, but those typically are limited to, for example, interest, extra contractual damages that are as a result of the delay, if any, from the insurance company. So, for example, if the insurance company delayed the claim for such a long time, and that now because of COVID, for example, the building materials have skyrocketed, well, potentially that's an extra contractual claim, because it's not something you're tied to the four corners of the contract, and the insurance policy doesn't say anything about that. But then we would make the argument that, well, this is as a direct result of the delay from the insurance company, so you owe that, but you wouldn't owe that. The insurance company wouldn't owe that now. They would owe that potentially in bad faith down the road.
Now, this is kind of just my own kind of questions as you're speaking. Sentimental items, watches, things like this that, you know, might be priceless for some people. Is there any advice you can give to somebody about maybe making sure an asset is included in a policy? Is there anything like that that can be done? Can you speak to that?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. Something that actually comes up a lot more than you would think. Your typical homeowner's policy has a lot of sublimits and exclusions. Okay, so jewelry, for example. A lot of us have nice jewelry. My wife has, you know, diamonds and gold and whatnot. Some people have nice watches. In the case of a theft, I'll just give you a basic example. In the case of a theft, you're limited to, in typical policy, $1,000. Well, your damages could be much more than that, because it's going to cost you a lot more than $1,000 to replace like your engagement ring, for example, in most instances. So in that case, what I always recommend to people, and great question, Naif, thank you for this, is that you have a scheduled contents policy. So if you have a sentimental item or something that's really difficult, like a very unique painting, you want to get what's called a scheduled contents policy that specifically, and so you literally, instead of like a homeowner's policy, I just list coverages. Coverage A, 200,000. Coverage B, 10,000. Coverage C, which is personal property, which could maybe get 30, 35,000 based on those numbers. That is just a general number, like all your property in your house is going to be valued at 35,000, right? That's what that would typically mean if you had to replace it all, if you have an RCV policy. But for scheduled contents, it will literally list out a schedule. I have X, Y, Z items valued at X amount, and that's it. There's no argument about that. And so it's very
such a huge piece of information. I went off the screen to literally tell my assistant, like, hey, I need to make some updates myself at home, because you don't realize, you don't think about these things, right? You think the home is my roof covered. But if you have something from your grandfather, your mother, or just expensive jewelry that you can't even trace the value of it, you need to make sure you list it, which I think is probably one of the most common mistakes. And on mistakes, I want to know, can you tell us what are some of the most common mistakes you see with insurance claims, with electing certain insurance or refusing to take certain coverage? What do you see that people can take away today and learn from? And that's all we want. I always say knowledge is power, right? So how can everybody learn from preventing any future damages to their livelihood?
Absolutely. So number one thing that comes to mind is being underinsured, not having enough coverage or not having the proper coverage in place. So the first thing to avoid that, I would say, is have a professional review your policy. We offer free policy review, and we love to talk to people about this, because we want to make sure you have enough. Thank you for putting that email about just info@mso.law. If you have a policy, you're unsure, again, this is hurricane season, this is the time to review all your coverages and to make sure that you have enough insurance. So first mistake is being underinsured or not having the proper coverage in place. For example, you gave a great example with the personal property needing scheduled contents for certain items. So that's number one. Number two is kind of along the same lines, not having the right kind of coverage when it comes to, for example, so something that we see often, and we saw a lot after Hurricane Michael, where two items is ordinance and law. So ordinance and law is a coverage that if you're, let's say, for example, right now the code just changed, and this year you're required to have 2 levels of underlayment if your roof is replaced. So your roof is replaced and you now have to upgrade to get 2 levels of underlayment. That's a code upgrade. If your windows are older, you have windows that are from the 80s and you need to upgrade them, that's a code upgrade. So that's not covered under your policy if you have 0 ordinance and law. The insurance company would say, yeah, your windows are damaged and we're going to pay you for what these windows are worth right now, which is 30, 40-year-old windows. We're just going to pay you pennies. And they rightfully could do that. And so because you don't have ordinance and law coverage, so that's a very important coverage. And the other one is having the right coverage, because something that we saw, screen enclosures, very common in Florida, right? A lot of people have pools or just have outdoor decks with a screen, a bird cage, as they often call. Those, you need another endorsement on most policies in Florida to cover that. Otherwise, the insurance, rightfully so, could deny that damage if it's damaged from a tree or wind or whatever it might be.
So especially if you've made add-ons to the home since you first purchased, if you added a screen, if you added an awning or a fence, like these are things that need to be updated with your policy and making sure they're included. Mohammad, I have a question for you about more maybe for my type of clients. Really quick here, there's an immigration question. Thank you, Eamon. I'll answer you, in private. I'll send you a message. But for people who are not U.S. citizens, for immigrants or foreigners, are there any clauses that they need to look out for? Are there policies that say you must be a citizen to have this policy? For foreigners, a lot of new residents in the U.S. to look out for who are non-citizens.
No, they don't need anything specifically like that. But I would say a lot of immigrants don't really understand or realize that you should have insurance in place, because where we come from overseas, insurance is not that big of a market. People don't typically insure. Like, you can drive around without insurance on your car, and most people don't have homeowners insurance. So to educate them, I would say you should have insurance. Like, you're required to if you're going to drive a car in the state of Florida. But more than that, you should have homeowners insurance. If you're not a homeowner, look into renter's insurance. Renter's insurance is actually very cheap, and it'll cover your contents, because let's say you're renting a house and a hurricane comes, or even just a pipe leak that damages your furniture. I mean, even just a few rooms that are damaged in bedrooms and furniture, well, those need to be replaced too.
So Bashar is asking, I work for a mechanic shop and my tools and equipment diagnostic machines are expensive. Can I get them insured on my own for his commercial, I guess a commercial policy?
Yeah, so if you're not the shop owner, you can, there would be your specific tools. Typically a business owner would have a business policy covering business, what's called business personal property. However, if those are your specific tools, yes, you can get those. If they're not the business's tools and they're yours specifically, you can get a policy to cover your tools. And in fact, you may want to, because those can be very pricey.
And is that included in his homeowner's policy or a separate policy?
No, nothing business related typically is included in a homeowner's policy.
Okay. I want to share his contact information one more time. Mohammad, this was incredibly insightful and timely. Thank you for taking the time from your work and your family to be here tonight. MSO.law. Here's their email if you want a free policy review. And also, I would encourage you guys to contact us if you have a hurricane or insurance claim or you want to get in touch with Mohammad. We're happy to put you in touch with them. And next week, as I mentioned, we will have our Facebook Live in Arabic. إن شاء الله الأسبوع الجاي بنشوفكم الخميس وبنتكلم بالعربي. إذا عندكم أي سؤال اتفضلوا. Mohammad, ثاني مرة, thank you, Mohammad, and for joining and spending the time with us tonight. I appreciate it.
شكرا حبيبي نايف. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to viewers.
Bye-bye.